thing I like about it is the guy really pushes her a bit. Like, he's really like, come on, say something. He says to the Black Lives Matter person, like, yeah, come on. He really pushes her, and usually with Sky News, they're usually, like, even though they're sort of to the right,
they are a little bit to the right, yes.
They really, like, you know, there
was a very Paxman edge to it, you know,
yeah,
pushing for that answer.
You'll get a lot of pretentious, condescending, you know, you get a lot of that from this woman.
What is the purpose of the Black Lives Matter campaign being transplanted across the Atlantic to the United Kingdom?
Right, before she answers, let's offer our own opinion to this.
I do understand the idea of solidarity, sure, even though it's bollock. But I think one of the reasons is because they want to look good and they want to present, and these people want to present themselves as political figures. They want to get their voices out there. They want to be seen as active, politically active. And this is this is a good way of doing that.
We spend our lives building communities, but then the next generation will come along and look to a way to destroy it. There's no real solidarity in anything. We look to destroy each other because we're very individualistic. And the Black Lives Matter thing coming to the UK makes zero sense, because we know we don't really have systemic race issues in this country. We do have issues with failed integration. Let's see what she says.
I'm not sure it's been transplanted. I think the activists are using the term, but this activism has been going on in the UK for a very, very long time. People have some real concerns about deaths in police custody, most of which aren't really investigated. The vast majority of people who are dying in police custody are black. And people want some accountability and some transparency there. You know, the police are supposed to protect us. And so it's very alarming when people are dying at the hands of the police.
Citation needed.
From the ones they've popped up, like Sean Riggs, Sarah Reid, Mohammed Moses, and some of all the ones that they put up, they did go under investigation, and some were deemed lawful, and some are actually still under investigation. So Mohammed, the one in Liverpool, yeah, they're saying like, this was blah blah blah, but like the reason why nothing's come out of it yet is because it's still under investigation. Like, a few of these are either still under investigation or they've been deemed a lawful killing.
So it's all based on assumption, and the cops did bad.
Yeah, and a lot of the time you'll hear the same, every time like this thing happens, you'll hear the same statement from police officers who say, we do not condone this. If it's like if they find evidence that the police officers were being like fucking assholes, you will get the same statement over and over again. We do not condone this. We do not condone racism, and we will punish these people. If these were racist people, they would look at that and go, yeah, and...
Did she say the majority of those dying in police custody are black?
Citation needed.
I'd say they're doing a fantastic job protecting you, putting screens in front of you in Nottingham so the drivers and trams don't run you over. Personally, I would have just, with the ones in Nottingham or the one on the Heathrow bit, I would have just sprayed them with pepper spray and walked away.
I would have just, I don't know, I usually said, no, like, arrest them, you're here illegally. You're not meant to be here. If you want to
protest, you're disrupting public services, emergency services. You're disrupting people trying to get to work to pay their bills. You don't know anything about because your daddy pays for your bills.
Or people who are going on holiday.
Rennie, if it's not connected to Black Lives Matter, why on earth have they taken the name then?
I'm not saying that it's not connected. I'm saying that they're using the name, but this is a new name in Britain for some activism that's been going on for decades at this point.
I'm sorry, they're using the name? Do they have to get permission for this?
I don't know. I think Black Lives Matter pretty much can be used by anyone. It's a hashtag, really. So, and I mean, anyone can use it, really. Like, it's not as if copyrighted or anything.
That just implies there's a civil rights movement in the UK already.
There really isn't,
but
really.
You don't hear much about it.
No.
I still need citations for that. Just so I put it out there.
Tom, people, when they hear Black Lives Matter, are immediately going to think of the campaign that's taking place in the United States, aren't they? So, in your mind, what's the utility of stopping people going on holiday at Heathrow and Birmingham?
Well, I think that's entirely the point. I think it just goes to show that really this isn't really about what it claims to be. I mean, first and foremost, Britain is not a racist country. Racism is not endemic throughout society, even throughout our institutions. There are particular things that, of course, we need to address, but unfurling a ban is saying that this is a crisis and implying that there is some similarity in the US where there is real lingering problems with police brutality, I think is actually borderline insulting. But I think you've got to look at what's really driving this, if it's not really people's lived experiences, what's going on in society. And I think it's this tendency on behalf of progressives, kind of professional activists, effectively, to basically foist victim status on behalf of particular groups. And I think ultimately that's really quite damaging. I mean, first of all, because it undermines the sort of sense of universalism that we're supposed to have, enjoy the sort of tolerant nation that we're seeing develop. But also I think it just constantly preaches vulnerability, when what we should really be upholding is assertiveness, the fact that all of us, no matter what the colour of our skin, can engage in society. So I think think really it's not particular concerns about the state that's driving this. I think it's an attempt to claim a certain victimised status, and I think it's ultimately quite damaging.
Yeah, he's right.
Yeah, so basically that was it.
I don't know, I have no argument against it, really.
Yeah, you can't argue. He basically says in a far more succinct way what we have been saying in our videos for the last few months.
Yeah.
People are creating, they've got their label maker out, they've been on Tumblr, they've found their gender, their pronoun, their sexuality, and their race. Oh wait, race, intersectional feminism, holy shit! The ultimate victim complex bingo game.
Not at all, because I think if you actually look at the aims of the campaign, they're trying to highlight using disruptive tactics.
Using destructive tactics. That makes you sound great, doesn't it?
It sounds so democratic to be destructive. You reinforce democracy violently, which in itself isn't democratic. It weakens you and makes you look like hypocrites.
Big problems that often we're not looking at. And I really think to say that Britain doesn't have a problem with racism is utterly disingenuous.
How is it disingenuous?
Rennie, my woman. Right.
My nigga.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but I was like, I don't know how to say it. I've tried to apply for jobs at the BBC, and there are some jobs
I know.
that only allow black people or people who are not white to join. If we were living in a racist country, if we had racist institutions, why would those exist?
In my last Exhibition of Stupidity, and I will leave a link in my main video for this, I covered the application process for creative access, which is what you are talking about, where it says non-white UK nationals on the application form process.
You've only got to look at what happened after Brexit with that dramatic rise in racist hate crimes to show us that we've really got a long way to go.
There was a backlash, not just from the Leave side, but also the Remain side. The Remain side calling for a second referendum. Of course, we know that the government petition was started by a Leave voter. Irrelevant. Okay, back to the race thing, because obviously this is a massive tangent.
And our institutions can do better as well. So yeah, I think that unfortunately it's annoying and frustrating for some people to have their traffic disrupted.
What you really did, though, with the average Joe was prove to them that millennials are fucking idiots.
Yeah.
Millennials are more privileged than their predecessors. Millennials are more entitled than their predecessors. Millennials don't have calluses on their hands because they don't know what hard work is. Millennials only know what a headache is from a hangover and not from stress and hard work. Millennials don't know what true education is because when they got the opportunity to go, they didn't study a real subject.
But the point of protest is sometimes not actually to gain support, it's to create maximum disruption to raise awareness to an issue. And today people are talking about deaths in police custody in a way that they don't usually speak about it every day, and that's something that the campaign has achieved.
No, what it achieved is it pissed off a lot of people, and we've already sort of mostly forgotten you exist.
What you possibly have already succeeded in doing, love, is you've given genuine far-right groups who are fucking arseholes ammunition against you.
Yeah.
They will almost have a legitimate argument because they will say, look at what these people are doing, look at what these are doing, and they won't be wrong. And you will bring people to these actually racist organizations, and they will build more and more and more as you start to piss more and more people off. It's almost like these people want that, though. You want the racial tensions because you don't have anything to protest about now. That you don't have some massive civil rights movement to protest about now. But if you raise these tensions against it, if you raise the tensions between different races of people, you are going to get something like that happen. You might get something like that happening, and then you will then see like, oh, we've definitely got the thing now, so so then they'll jump in and be the leaders. They want to create the racial tension so that they can then turn around and say, oh look, racial tension, I better be the next Martin Luther King, so put it on my CV.
Well, I think that's really interesting because if we hear so much about raising awareness about disruption, my question is if this is really about the state, it's about the police, then why aren't people protesting outside Scotland Yard, outside of police stations? I think it really shows that that's not really what these protests are about. I think it's on behalf of a select group of pretty unrepresentative campaigners who are basically just trying to kind of peddle this vulnerable kind of identity politics kind of narrative. And I think that ultimately what it does, as we heard in the reference to this idea that Brexit has kind of led to this upsurge surge in racist attacks really just shows that really what this is about pitting a group of people who are said to be really trodden upon, really vulnerable, against this kind of ignorant, most likely working class blob. And I think that ultimately that gets to grips with how damaging this sorts of protests are, because it's not really about freedom, it's not really about equality in any meaningful sense. It's just about effectively trying to score political points, and in the process undermining the two crucial things to any anti-racist universalist campaign, one of which that is assertive, is about saying that everyone should play a role in society, that some people aren't weaker than others. Constantly preaching vulnerability only reaffirms that. And secondly, it undermines universalism, the goal that we're all supposed to be striving towards, and effectively says that people are different on the basis of their skin colour because you lot don't understand. There's the bigoted masses on one side and the oppressed minorities on the other. I don't think it reflects reality, and I think it's just an attempt to basically replay the political battles of the past rather than look at the problems that do confront us.
A couple quick things. Firstly, she looks like she's about to order a drive-by, but also I think earlier I think she zoned out until she heard something she disagreed with.
I know that guy's face is just like, played
Suck
it.
bitch.
Suck it, bitch. When you edit this, you need to put like a glasses and a weed thing on his mouth.
The thug life swag thing.
That's a thug life grin, that.
It's the one and only Digo Double G.
I love that she's going to get very offended by what he says, but what he has said is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, thanks for that, Tom.
You're white, you have no opinion that matters.
Yeah, thanks for that. Like, look at how condescending you sound.
Condescending.
Yeah, thanks for that, mate. Thanks for that. Oh, fuck yourself, love.
Look at that face. She is farting.
But, you know, to say that people haven't been protesting outside police stations is just not true.
Actually, he didn't say they weren't. He said that they would be protesting outside police stations.
So it's like, yeah, what he meant was like, instead of, pissing about at an airport.
Yeah.
He
never said they weren't doing it.
There's no point in protesting police brutality by blocking an airport. If you want to protest police brutality, go to a fucking police station and protest it there. That's what he
does. Protest outside Houses of Parliament like everyone else does.
Yeah, there was literally no point. The only reason why you would want to block an airport is because you just want to be an asshole. You want to be a nuisance. Like, you don't want to, like what he said it before, like, it's not about protesting police brutality. You just want to put forward this narrative in the most annoying way possible. Like, yeah, if you really were interested in police brutality, fucking protest in a police station. That's what he means by that. He's not saying.
Almost exactly a year ago now, actually just over a year ago, a black man, Sheku Bayo, died in police custody.
Do you know who that guy is?
Sheku Bayo. That was a case that happened in Scotland. I prepared a video on this and I've gone through all the things I do. And the thing that makes me confused why they included this story is because the thing with Inquest, they only take into account all the police death custodies in England and Wales. So it would be a bit odd if you use that figure that only counts for England and Wales and then use a case in Scotland.
After being restrained by 9 police officers.
I wonder why he had to be restrained by 9. Drug or aggressiveness usually.
Yeah, you don't get held down by 9 people for no reason.
His family is still fighting for justice.
Fighting for justice now translates as getting a police officer put in prison.
This happened in Scotland, and there have been protests outside of police stations of people asking for accountability. Nobody's saying, oh, we're weak or we're vulnerable, blah, 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 boo-hoo, you treat us bad. People are saying, actually, there is an unequal treatment here, and we need to challenge that unequal treatment at the hands of institutions that should be treating people equally. So it's not imagined. Like, you've only got to look at the numbers to sort of see these vast disparities and be shocked. And I love that you preach about anti-racism. I think that's fantastic and great. And I would love to ask you your anti-racist credentials.
You need to point out what numbers you're talking about. If you really want to make a case for this movement, if you want it to go big, use specifics. Get people to do their own research. Encourage that. Because all I'm hearing is, no, mate, you're wrong because racism.
Yeah, credentials though.
My credentials.
My credentials.
My racist credentials. My anti-racist credentials.
When you see that black people are dying at a disproportionate amount in police custody, are you angry? Or are you angry at the people who are protesting against the fact that that happens?
What I'm angry about is someone inventing a narrative that isn't there, which is going to lead to more racial tensions between people. That pisses me off. You're creating problems.
Yeah, what I'm interested now in is, first of all, he was completely neutral throughout, unlike this young lady was when he answered last. But I want to see how long it takes for her to zone out.
Well, I think my point here is that I don't really think that's what motivates these protests in the first place. My point is that I think that ultimately, and I think it is reflected in the fact that people choose to blockade people going on holiday. It's basically all about this concept of raising awareness is basically just a byword for saying you lot are ignorant and we need to educate you. This is not really about fighting perceived individual issues. I mean, the anti-racist slogan of the 70s and 80s was black and white, unite and fight. Fight against the system, that was. Nowadays, it feels like so much more of the energy of so-called anti-racism campaigning is really just going into projecting an image of the masses as this kind of ignorant, white, working-class blob who are just somehow endemically racist. And that's why I think all of the energy is not going into protesting police stations. It's going into raising awareness, which is basically just a byword for saying you lot are ignorant, you lot are bigoted. And I find that ultimately damaging if what we're looking for is unity and universalism.
Yeah, he's right. These people do preach unity and everyone has to get together to fight the evil systems or whatever. But at the end, the reality of it is they are actually tearing apart people, and like they're saying, oh, white people can't understand this because white privilege. This group of people can't understand this because they're inherently bigoted. Intersectional feminism is a divisive technique because, well, there's the black feminists, but then will have their space, but then the black disabled feminists won't have their space, and then the black disabled otherkin won't have their space. They preach tolerance, but actually they preach the entire opposite.
Well, I think it's more that, and this is something I saw 10 years ago with emos, it's this desire to be unique when really we're very much the same. And this is what I argued with those that identified as emo 10 years ago. They all claimed to be unique and individual, but they were all dressed in the same clothing. They were all behaving the same way, listening to the same music, mannerisms the same. They're no different. These people are no different. Oh, look, you want to be a victim. I want to be a greater victim. I want to be an even greater victim. I want to be the very best like no one ever was.
The Pokemon Olympics.
Dun, dun.
I suppose you could call the theory the Pokemon Olympics. You could, couldn't you? The Pokemon Olympics. Like, I want to be the Pokemon Oppression Olympics, which is basically people who want to be the very oppressed like no one ever was.
Rennie, I just wanted to pick you up, Rennie, if I can, on something you mentioned just a moment ago, that the point of protest is not always to gather support to your particular cause. But what, in essence, do you think those people who are, stuck on the M4 trying to get to Heathrow today, who haven't a racist bone in their body, will feel when they drive past and see a handful of protesters, not a body representative of the black population here in the United Kingdom, see them chaining themselves to each other for this? What do you think that those people who drive past and see them at the side of the road will think of them, and indeed of the wider Black Lives Matter movement?
I will say that he is making a very wild assumption, but I do believe that we as a nation are not a very racist one.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't there, so often when these happen...
Why are they laying in the road? Is it because they've noticed the American ones, the more no-nonsense people have now started running them over, and they think that they won't be run over if they're laying down?
It's just to represent, lying dead on the floor.
These sorts of things happen. People, shout things out of the window, or they beat their horns in support.
No, they were not beeping their horns. They were not beeping their horns in support. How deluded are you?
Yeah, I know. Maybe there was
the only way you're ever going to get them on side is if you started getting people to flash tits.
So I can't really tell you what they think.
You can't really tell what they think, but you're probably the type of person who will then say, "Oh, white people are racist," or that police officers are every time they shoot a black person or hurt a black person or arrest a black person, you will think that they are like racist and so on. You won't know what your friends think, but you will know somehow through your mind reading abilities. The police was thinking, "Oh, I'm going to kill this fucking bastard."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It also tells me that everything you've said so far then has been nothing more than a condescending bunch of assertions.
But I must say, I do question your skeptical sort of approach to the protests that are happening in the first place.
We're skeptical of everything until we see evidence, something which you haven't provided.
That's the point of being skeptical. How do people not be skeptical?
You can't just accept something on face value. Jinx, yeah. You can't accept something on face value because you said it, therefore
Yeah.
it is true. Whereas we have to find the evidence and link it and source it and understand what we have sourced, because what we say has to have merit.
Yeah, and I think this is why groups like Black Lives Matter, or groups like that, like Black Lives Matter, are doing so well, especially in America anyway, because people are too afraid to be skeptical of them because they're being labeled as racist.
I think if you want to find out why these people are protesting, they're putting the information out there for you on the internet. And
But you're being put on television, you could easily convey some of it.
I don't think it's fair to start,
Oh, where? It's not fair.
making up reasons as to why they're protesting. And they're making it clear.
I think the one making up the reasons is you,
Yeah.
not them.
They want accountability from state institutions that should be protecting us.
They do.
They do protect you.
But
That's
you
why you're
don't,
still alive.
but you do not allow them to protect you, especially when it's quite common for people not to talk to the police.
Nobody should be dying at the hands of the police in this country in this age. We shouldn't even be having to have this conversation. And the question is, if you are upset and angry about the way that these people are doing their anti-racist activism,
What they're doing is an anti-racist activism.
You're doing more to create racism than to prevent it, really.
Yeah.
then propose a better solution. Show us your anti-racist credentials.
Why would you need anti-racism credentials? Like you said, surely that enough should be just saying, the only credentials you should have is saying, yeah, I am not racist. That's pretty much it. The fact that it kind of makes me more confident to use the word virtue signaling, because she needs to show people that she has anti-racism credentials in order to say, look, I got these. I'm not a racist. You guys, look, oh, no, great. I'm not a racist.
I once voted for Obama.
Yeah.
That doesn't make you. That makes me totally progressive.
And let's work together, because nobody wants to be living in a world where racism persists. Nobody wants to. So if you're serious, and you're not just serious about critiquing the ways that these people are going about doing it, but if you're serious in seeing the world, in seeing racism end and the world end racism, then pitch in your ideas. Let's do it together.
You will never end racism ever. I'm sorry.
It's
you
like
can't,
equality. It's unattainable.
Yeah, you can't. You can't end crime. You can't end poverty. You can't end other stuff. It will always happen. You can put in means to make less people go into poverty. You can put in means to make crime go down. But there will always be criminals who will give birth to kids who will then become criminals. It's ridiculous to say we will stop racism. You can't. It'd be great if we could do that, but you can't. There will always be racists in the world.
She has a losing pause face.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm sorry, though. It's really naive to say let's end racism. No, you can't end racism the same way you can't end poverty or world hunger, because someone will always be hungry.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's sad to say, but. You can't. You're not in the real world if you think that you could just end racism. You'd have to start with yourself then first, as well, love. And Black Lives Matter. You want to start ending that.
Tom, there is a point there that needs responding to, isn't it? Despite the bien-pensant circles in which we all move, the fact that our friends will not utter racist words of the like that a couple of generations ago would have been commonplace in the pub. Racism still exists in this country, and given that it does, don't we need to see outlandish tactics such as this to get it back onto the front pages, to get conversations like this one happening?
It should never be on the front page to begin with.
Yeah, racism will always exist. Even if you did somehow eliminate racism, the people like this will always find something, because that's their career. That's their career. As long as there is
finding discrimination.
It's like with feminists. As long as there are racist people out there, these people will have jobs.
It's like the gender studies professors. If they even for a second pointed out that equality had been to a level attained far beyond what they would imagine, they're out of jobs.
Yeah, it's like when Jessica Valenti says oh, I would love to come to a time when feminism is not needed. I'm like, actually no, you would hate that because you'd be out of a job. You don't. So in your eyes anyway.
Well, I just find it staggering that we're still having these conversations where we're saying, of course, everyone in this room isn't racist, but there's some people out there who probably are. First of all, if they're out there and you don't run in those circles, how do you know? Second of all, I think it just speaks to the fact that this is just a presumed prejudice at this point. And if we're talking about setting things on the right path, my thing is that we've got to completely uphold universalism and reject victimhood. As far as I'm concerned, if there is a racialising dynamic in society today, it's this form of identity politics, which effectively says that on the basis of the colour of your skin, despite your lived experiences, despite how you might have been treated over your life, you are a victim, you are oppressed, and that these people over the other side are really hate you and are looking to thwart you in some kind of way. If there's anything that's making people tense around each other, if there's anything that's making people watch their words, it's that. Not because they're racist, but because this new kind of identity politics, supposedly anti-racist form of activism, is really just making people feel more nervous about each other by constantly playing out these battles of the past. If we're going to move forward, it's about reaffirming universalism, saying that ultimately we're all the same. And I think constantly, as I say, projecting this victim status, I think we're getting further away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say. Yeah.
I don't really have to finish what he says. He's hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, like we would just be repeating what he said.
Yeah. Thank you for helping.
No problem.